Today, we talked with the Lester family out in Wisconsin about homeschooling with their cousins and Darla's sister. It was a wonderful conversation, and we dove into how they are homesteading. They actually have a full on production farm with meat and horses and pigs, and her sister's got rabbits, and they have so many animals. So it was really nice to talk to them and how she keeps things focused on homeschooling and managing doing the farm. So this episode was really great to give you an idea of what it's like to have some help on the homeschool front when a sibling is helping out and families are joined together for homeschooling on the homestead.
And once again, they all agreed we should homeschool on the homestead. There is just so many good benefits about it.
Yeah, the kids were great talking to Riley. So let's dive right into the interview. Hello, we are joined today with our friend Darla from Twin Folks Farms. We're so happy to have you join us today and teach us all about what your homeschooling on the homestead looks like. So hello, Darla, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast. And I want to get started right away. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and the Twin Folks Farm?
Yes. So I'm Darla Lester. I live in Wisconsin, Western Wisconsin, pretty close. 45 minutes to Minneapolis, St. Paul, on a 135-acre farm. Across the road from me lives my twin sister, Kayla, and her 4 children. I have 5 kids here, a husband, Nate. One kind of quirky thing about our family setup is 2 of my 5 kids are adopted as of a year ago. And then 2 of my twin sisters' kids are adopted as of a year ago. And they have the same mom. So my twin sister and I are both raising like siblings. So they're not sure if they're sisters or cousins or whatever, but they're both. So we do homesteading and farming. So I guess I don't know what you would call us. We tend to call ourselves a farm, but whatever, they're all depends on what we're doing in the moment as to what we are. So we do some row crops. We do a lot of hay. We do a garden, and then we raise grass-fed and finished lamb and beef, and then pastured pork and chicken and Thanksgiving turkeys. So that's the main thing of what we do as far as our Twin Folk Farms business right now. We sell pastured meat at the farmers market every Saturday, and then people can buy it from the site. And we homeschool alongside of all that.
Wow. Yeah, you guys do a lot. That farm sounds pretty busy. And that is so neat to say that your sister is across the street. Now, we were talking a little bit before that your sister has the 4 children under 5 years old. So that keeps her pretty busy. But this has been a dream of yours forever, right? That you're the 2 of you owning a farm together and kind of living together and doing life together.
Right. Yes. When we were kids, we decided we were going to have a pet shop for our business when we were adults. That did not happen. Kayla lived across the country for our first 9 years of adulthood, and it's just been the last 5 years that they're close. So it's been amazing to do life together now that we're in our 30s.
Yeah, I also have a sister that we do life together as well. She doesn't have the farm aspect. She's a photographer, but we get the kids together. Our kids are closer in age, so they are together all the time, which is really
great. So they can run across. You're close enough where you can walk, or do you have to drive to hang out?
No, we're driving distance. She's about 15 minutes away driving.
Sure. That's not bad.
Yeah, we have the pool and the land, so she's over here just about every day.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that and how beneficial it is to be homeschooling with a sibling so close and having the cousins together, as well as the homesteading part. Question for you first, did your sister and were you homeschooled, or is this something you dove into later?
We were not homeschooled. We actually were raised pretty close to a community of homeschoolers, and so we begged to be homeschooled. But that was in the 90s, you know, so it was kind of like my parents gave us a lot of at-home enrichment. Like we were raised on a farm with beef animals and pets and horses and nice gardens. And my mom always preserved and made bread and such. My dad had a beef herd. So we begged to do sports, but by the time they told us we could do sports when we were in high school, but by the time we were in high school, we're like, no, we want to be home. We want to do all the home things. So even though we weren't homeschooled, I always had that urge to actually see what it was like, right? So now we're doing that in this generation.
That's awesome. So did that influence your decision to homeschool your own children because you saw that community growing up?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. And then by the time my kids were school age, let's see, my oldest was born in 2010. So by the time she was of school age, it was becoming more of a thing. Like you could actually research it, and I actually knew way more people doing it. So it helped me jump in knowing that there was that great support system all around me.
Yeah. I was also growing up through the 90s too. And I don't think I knew one homeschooler. So I had no idea this was even a possibility.
Sure.
As a kid. And then I mean, nowadays it's so common with everything that's going on. So did your kids ever go to school, or have they always, I guess, a public school or a Christian school or whatever before, or has it always been homeschool?
Yeah. So I sent Raya to 4-year-old kindergarten when she was 4 because it was half a day and my mom was the aide, and it was only 1 mile down the road in a 1 hallway school, which is where I grew up going to school. So she did that. And then by the time she was kindergarten age, I was set to homeschool. And then the 2 kids that we adopted 1 year ago, this past year was the first year we have had them home. Okay. So we took them in a couple years before we adopted them. So then by law, they had to go into school. So we incorporated those 2 worlds for a while there.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is our first full year of homeschooling 5 kids.
Oh, I can't wait for you to ask them what they thought of being homeschooled after having both experiences. So if you remember to ask them that. That's so neat. I love that you've had them home this whole time, had that desire, knew that you wanted to go into that, or, fell onto that. So what about the homesteading aspect of that? It sounds like you've been doing this the whole time. Or is that something that came a little later? I know you did it as a child, but have your children been on it since birth, been on the farm?
So we raised our first 2 kids from they were 1 and 3 when we moved from town to the country. We always wanted to move to the country. So even when we were in town, those first years of marriage and having kids, we had backyard chickens and a dog. And then we were able to go to my parents' farm and get our country fix. So by the time we moved out to the farm, they were 1 and 3. The first animals we got were the ancient goats from my parents' place and chickens. So we started with goats and chickens. And then my son was born a year later, and we got our first milk cow when I was 9 months pregnant because I was so determined to do raw milk to heal my older daughter's gut issues. And so I learned how to milk a cow. And then I had the 3rd baby, and it was just not slowing down since then. That's about when I stopped doing like all the nice baby books and photo albums and started going hardcore, just doing the homestead thing, raising babies.
They go hand in hand, I think. It seems like chickens are the gateway into this homesteading world. Everyone starts with the chickens and then it just evolves after that. But 9 months pregnant, you got your dairy cow?
I did. Yep. I mean, she calved 1 month before I gave birth. So I had 1 month to learn how to milk before he was born.
Wow.
So I guess 8 months. Yeah.
That's impressive.
I wasn't in labor getting a cow, but yeah, almost.
Just about. That's awesome. Now, does your sister have all the animals on her property as well, or is it just?
Yeah, she's got a whole slew. She has she has hair, or she has wool sheep. We have the hair sheep. We have the Katahdins. They have the wool sheep for meat, and they actually just got 2 milky lines of sheep to try sheep milk. So that's exciting. They're just young, so that'll be in about a year. We can see about that. And they have mini horses that are just the cutest things. Because her kids are younger, right? So they, the minis are so fun for those little kids. And they have the free range chickens, and they have a rabbitry in their barn. So it's like colony style meat rabbits. And she's teaching, our kids can probably talk to you about that, because she's teaching our kids how to do that. And they've had lots of rabbit stories. What else do they do? What else do Killens do? Oh yeah, they have or what's their breed of cow?
Dexter.
No, not Dexter. Devon, red Devon. They have red Devon beef cattle.
Wow. Yeah,
A handful.
she's
Like-
got a whole farm over there. That's nice too, that she's right across the street. The kids get to learn about those animals.
Totally.
You get to have your animals and not take care of all of them per se.
Totally.
But the kids get the
Yeah.
best of both worlds.
Totally. And when there's issues, that's been so nice to just call each other and say, can you please help me? This lamb is stuck and I need help pulling the lamb. Or like, oh no, my sheep are out. Can you come help me? Or the cow's on the road. Quick, let's put it back. Like just, and then even when we go on vacation, it's so nice just to be able to do each other's chores and know you can rely on each other.
That's awesome. Now, do you take vacations together, or do you stagger them so she takes care of your farm and you take care of her farm?
We have dreamed of doing vacations together. It has not happened because, yeah, it's so handy to be able to take care of each other's stuff.
Yeah, that's a huge blessing. That's always our concern when we leave, is who's going to take care of all of
Right.
this?
Right.
So, wow, that's really great. It is nice having that sibling to help you, your sister right there. I want to ask you about your husbands, because I feel like that's always a question that comes up with homeschooling too, is how, and with the homestead being that there's so much to do on a homestead, and with homeschooling, having the kids, are your husbands, how involved are they?
Yes. So my husband, Nate, he works off the farm Monday through Friday. So he goes off to a job. He leaves at 6:30 and gets back at 4. And then when he gets back, he does all the things. And then weekends, he does all the milking and chores for me. So he gives me the weekends off for milking. And then same with Kayla, her husband has a very similar schedule. So the husbands both tend to leave at the same time and come back at similar times. But I think that I'm like correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is pretty common. Like the wife tends to be the visionary. So I'm bringing in all these things, and sometimes a little more than I should. And then he's like helping me facilitate it all. So it's not like he's had all these ideas, although he really loves the country life, but like he's really stepped in with the homeschooling, especially since we brought in the other 2 kids. So now he's the math guy. His brain works in math very nicely, so he's able to help them when they need help with their math. And then he does a lot with the farm side of it. He plants all the crops. He cuts the hay and bales the hay, and sometimes I help rake it, but he's mainly the farm guy. He helps me move the sheep whenever I need help, whenever I'm gone or something. He knows how to do it all. We do the farmers market. He helps me get all the freezers loaded and such. He does when the house is in like a significant amount of disarray, then he'll step in and do the dishes or the laundry. It's like when it's on fire. Yeah, and he just hangs with the kids when I'm gone, because I do cleaning on the side, just like one job a week, which gets me off the farm, but then he's here, so that's kind of nice too. Then he's like the dad, when I'm gone, or he's always the dad, but when I'm gone, he's the supper guy and the chore guy and the kid dad. He does all the book work. So yeah, we do this thing called Hip Camp. I don't know if you've heard of Hip Camp.
No.
So it's like Airbnb, except for campsites.
Oh.
So like we have 3 sites on our farm that people can camp at, and 1 off-grid cabin. So he's a huge help in that. Like he'll keep it all brush hogged and make sure the grills all work and fix the solar when it goes out in the cabin. Like just the typical guide dad stuff.
Yeah, well, that's really helpful that he's doing all of that. That's wonderful. When you mentioned about, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you said he's the math guy. Sounds like he's programmed that way. And then you're more of the visionary. So I'm guessing you're more into the literature aspect of it, that dream part. Yeah,
right.
I think that's personality.
Right. I do like the more the research and the jump in, and then he's more of like and let's see how this is actually going to work.
Now, I don't know if that's for every wife and husband, but I can definitely relate. This is all me. And he's like, okay, reality check. This is how it has to be done.
Right. Well, even the homeschool, he wasn't raised homeschooling. So it took some talking and, it did come to the point where I was like, I can't not teach all this. And so then he stepped in and saved me from the math.
That's wonderful. She's my oldest, so I'm still good doing all the math, but I do think at some point I may have to add him to come in. But my husband actually wasn't for homeschooling. It took a couple of years for him to be like, okay, I think this is actually a good thing. So that whole vision thing, he's like, wait, we're stepping out of the box. He likes his little box sometimes.
Yes. Right. Yeah. I mean, and I understand, like, I think sometimes when we have the vision or the dream or the final success story in our head, and they might bring out the pieces of what it's actually going to take to get there. I mean, that's how Nate is, at least. Like, so how is this dream actually going to look, like in the day to day? But yeah, so far we just take one day at a time,
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's so good to hear when dads are helping out so much, and it's so important to have that father figure.
For sure.
So what a blessing, especially if there's two you brought into the family, that Nate's able to be that great father figure. So I love hearing that. As you were talking too, he's doing the math. Now, do you follow a curriculum, or do you kind of make up your own stuff? Pick a little here, a little there. What do you do for your curriculum?
That's been a big journey. I started off being pretty much unschooly. So doing lots of book reading and kind of like the free range kid, which still very much that way. I did learn kind of the hard way that for our kids, or my teaching style, I needed to be more structured because they weren't learning as fast as what I pictured. Maybe that's that, end goal, understanding what it actually takes to homeschool. So we started off doing Logic of English. I don't know if you've heard that. Heard of that.
Okay.
Logic of English for reading. And we tried teach your child how to read in 100 easy lessons. We tried that. Didn't really like it. We really liked math, Lessons for Living Education. Have you heard of that one? It's like a living math, Charlotte Mason based. Explode the Code. Really liked that.
That one.
And so we did get to the point where when we brought in the two other kids that were fully public schooled up until they moved in with us, I had this moment of how am I going to get all this? How am I going to do this? I don't have any idea, actually, because some were like kind of significantly further behind than what I was comfortable with. So, and also I didn't like, have you heard of that transition from public school to homeschooling school? Like, it's good to ease them in. So the past 2 years we've actually done charter school, virtual charter school online.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually is technically a public school, but it's virtual and it's charter, meaning we as the parents have a lot more options as to what we want their schooling to look like. So for instance, you can choose if you want them to take all classes online. So they log in at a certain time and take their math and take their English, or you can choose to just do a homeschool curriculum that they provide where it's all book-based. So we've done a hybrid. So the kids, the older kids, some of them do log on now and take their math class online, and do log on now and take, like someone might take a science online, someone might take a tech online. There's one that takes language arts online, but then for the younger ones, I'm able to choose a specific curriculum that any homeschooler could also purchase. I can't choose all of it because, you know, I couldn't choose something that's Christian based because it's a public school. So I'd have to do that on the side. But we do Bookshark. I don't know if you've heard of Bookshark, but it's like the secular version of Sunlight, I believe.
Okay.
So it's like an all-in-one curriculum, and it's literature based. So it's tons of, you get this huge box full of books, and it's really exciting, and the kids actually really like it, and I like it too. So it tells you what to do. You open it and you go to this day, and it even tells me like what to say, which I never thought I was that type of person, but I think Bookshark is really good about me reading it, and then it's almost like coaching me on how to help them with the complicated stuff that they kind of need to know, like how to structure a sentence in a paragraph and essays and, you know, all that stuff. So that's Bookshark. We also do All About Reading for one of the kids, and All About Spelling, which that is good for struggling readers. So that's why we chose that. The kids all do Matthew C. And we like all of that. It's just our options are more limited with doing this charter school. Yeah. So I maybe would do something else if I wasn't doing this charter school right now, but being they give us these options and we like them, we're continuing doing it that way for now, 1 year at a time. But we're kind of in that transition of getting everyone used to homeschooling. So far, so good.
That's wonderful. Those are some really great resources. I'll be sure to link them in the show notes so people can check them out. A couple of those programs I am familiar with. She was great with Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. That was perfect for her. But my son, we're at like lesson 50 and we just can't go anymore. Like it is just, he has hit that wall, and I'm like, okay, we need to find other resources. So I love that about homeschooling is you can constantly switch every year. And when you're in the public school, a lot of times they have that same curriculum the whole way through, and
you're
you
stuck.
Don't like it, you're stuck.
Yeah. Even with this school, it's actually been really helpful because you know how expensive curriculum is.
Oh yeah.
So, and also this school is only in Wisconsin. There's other versions in different states, but yeah, we, no kidding, went through 3 curriculums in 1 year for one child, just trying to find something that would work. And we finally found something that we really liked, which was All About Reading, but it took a bit.
It does. Luckily, there's those Facebook groups that you can sell curriculum back and swap it. That I have found very helpful, because in the beginning
That's true.
But then I found Charlotte Mason. You mentioned Charlotte Mason, and that's the philosophy we follow now. Have you ever heard of Ambleside Online?
Yes, I've scoured that site. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I dream about going back to more of that style. I mean, I would really love to, hopefully. But yeah, that philosophy really speaks to me. I really like that for sure.
Yeah. But I'm with you too. Like being that scattered brain, I definitely have ADD. So I'm all over the place all the time. And she's more of my focused child. So giving her a checklist helps her and me keep things.
Right. Oh, for sure. Good for you. Keeping mom in line, right?
She does. She's very much her father's. Yes, just like her father. So one other question I want to ask you before we get the kids on is, what about some challenges? I mean, you mentioned that with the your new children coming on board and the charter school and just adapting to that. But do you find that what kind of challenges, I guess I want to ask, that you have with homeschooling on the homestead. Things like that.
Yes.
Kind of challenge.
Well, for sure. That's definitely a thing. Like, truthfully, sometimes come about January, I think, wow, we could be living on a really pretty wooded lot somewhere. And then I could only be focusing on school with the kids and not feel so guilty about like not getting to a bunch of stuff all the time, which is probably why we got to the point of needing extra help, because it was like my personality. I just went, I was like, oh, like they're gonna absorb learning. So that was been a challenge to actually not do so many field trips and outings and social events, because we have chores and animals and things. So if we actually, like during the school year specifically, like summer's different, but during the school year, if we actually want to be serious about progressing, we do set time, like we do set hours now of doing school, which it used to just be when we got to it. So that's been a challenge that we've just had to zero in on prioritizing our learning hours, and that's really been helpful. Like keeping up with considering the homeschooling just as much a goal as all of my other homesteading goals. Like, and I've learned I have to prioritize that just as much. It really helps to be consistent with a school routine. Like I've started during the school year listing off what we're going to do when, so it's a visual. And then even checking it off. Just because I and the kids, we're all very much more wired to do the homestead stuff. And so, but I feel like we're at the cusp of being able to be more free. Like we still have kids in the learning how to read stage. So that's been a huge priority. So yeah, I mean, as far as myself and how I can be what I, like the most efficient part of me is I just do all of my morning routine before I even check my phone now. Like I'm pretty strict about my phone when I wake up, and I don't even let myself look at it after 9 p.m. It's just on silent. And I might peek at it to see if anyone texted me before I go to bed, but yeah, no, I've learned I have to be really strict with that, or it's easy to, oh my goodness, right? I mean, you just like look at the clock and you have no idea where the time went.
So true.
But I think that's probably a challenge across the board with anyone, but I'm not excluded, for sure. I'm not excluded from that. I've started doing a meal plan because that was another challenge. I'd get going with everything else, and then it would be like 9 o'clock and we'd be eating supper. So now I do Monday through Friday. This is what we're having. And then I know what I need to do at 2 p.m. to have supper on time, which is still like 7 or 7:30 usually. So yeah.
That's funny. I know. I think a lot of times people think of homesteaders and they automatically think that every night is this elegant dinner with farm fresh foods and stuff like that. And the reality is half the time it's not, because you're out in the garden, at least in the summertime, because you're out in the garden.
Yeah,
those cooler times when dinner needs to be prepared and you're starting to scramble.
Yeah. And, I don't know if I know everyone's different, right? As far as what you want to take on for a challenge. I like having things I'm figuring out and doing. Like I don't mind being in the mode of having a lot going on, but I know my limit of when I need to start streamlining or even asking kids for help. Like now they're all old enough, they're between 9 and 14, where sometimes I see it almost as a benefit of having a challenge, because then I can say, kids, can you help me brainstorm? And can you do this and you do this? And, help me, you guys go catch this loose thing. And can you cook supper tonight? Cause I'm going off doing this. So it sounds kind of chaotic, but at the same time, I feel like, it's what we signed up for. Like, that's what we wanted to do. And now they're all building skills. So we're here for it. Right. Like a challenge is an opportunity to learn.
100%. I always tell the kids, make mistakes and ask lots of questions. That's how you're going to learn. So-
Totally.
Oh, that's awesome. So what time of day would you say that you actually dedicate for schooling because of the farm chores and everything else? Or is it morning, afternoons, evenings? When do you typically do your schooling?
It would be our goal is between 8 and 2.
Okay.
So it's a massive part of our day in my mind. Like I didn't envision spending that much time on school, which if you ask the kids, they'll probably say that's one of the things that they dislike about this charter school is it's pretty demanding. So that's why I don't know if we'll stick with it forever, but for now it's I can tell it's what we should be doing. So 8 and 2, between 8 and 2, but you know, I mean, we stop for lunch and the kids have plenty of free time because there's quite a bit of it I have to do one-on-one. So
Okay.
yeah, sometimes it extends later, but yeah, usually we try to be starting by 8 and we try to be finished by 2.
Yeah, that's nice. So it's you personally that are 8 to 2, but the kids are kind of in and out between those
Right.
hours.
Right.
They get those
And
breaks.
right. And then that helps me to stay true to it when I have those hours because I mean, we're surrounded by friends and family and events and homeschool stuff we could do. And yeah, I just, you know, I usually say if it's after 2.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, just to bring in your sister again, you mentioned when we were talking previously that since your kids are older, they might read to the little guys that your sister has. Is that happen between those hours of 8 and 2, or do you try to keep them separate and then it's just more of the farming that they do together?
Usually that happens after, but I mean, it depends on the season. During the school year, actually sometimes it helps to have 1 or 2 of her kids come over. If a kid is going a little, you know, if a kid is running out of things to do in the middle of winter, we'll be like, hey, can Meadow come over? And then the kids will paint her nails or read her books, or hey, can Atlas come over? And then they'll bake cookies with him. Like they're always being creative with what they can do with their little cousins, which like it's been really sweet for them to have little cousins. I mean, it's a different relationship, but they dote on them, and then my youngest boy still plays with their 5-year-old, and so it's usually if it's in between school hours, we don't have them all come because then nothing would get done. But we can have a couple or one, and then it keeps the other kids doing stuff with, and then it helps my sister Kayla too because just mix it up a little, right?
Love that. That's so great. I love that. I'm a little jealous. I'm going to be honest that she's so close and not a drive, but you're just like, go across the street.
I know if we sprint, we can get there in less than a minute.
That's amazing. That is, yeah. So I highly encourage anybody listening to this, if you've got siblings, I have a brother too. I haven't quite gotten him on board, well, his wife on board with homeschooling, but we do see them often. But my sister, I roped her right in. I actually homeschooled her kids when the pandemic happened.
Sure.
I was like, don't put them, I'll homeschool them. And we did that for like 2 years. And that was
Nice.
Kids. And I also felt like we weren't progressing. So she took it on herself, which has been blessed.
Totally. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about any of this is you're not stuck in whatever you're doing. Like you just choose and then you go from there. Like if you don't like an animal, well, you move it on. Or if you really love an animal, well, then, you know, hone in on it. If you really like a curriculum, keep going. If you don't, choose something else.
I do. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you too, the benefits. And I agree. I think that's one of the biggest benefits about homeschooling is that you can cater to each child and the family as a whole for our lifestyle, making sure that it flows properly and no one's being stuck doing something they're not enjoying. That love
you for sure are in tune with the needs, which is why I suppose it's why we do switch it up a little bit. It's not like we're having commitment issues, I don't think. I think it's just that we're being flexible with what seems to fit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit. It was so wonderful talking to you, Darla, but I know that everybody wants to hear from the kids too, because even though the parents rave about homeschooling, we want to make sure that the kids are also enjoying homeschool. So we'll get your
Yes.
kiddos on here, and Riley's got a few questions that they want to ask.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to interview you, and I'm just gonna ask you guys some questions if you guys are okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Let's dive right in. Okay, please, can you tell me about a little bit about yourself, like maybe your name and your age, if that's okay?
I'm Brielle, and I'm 11 years old. I'm Raya, and I'm 13.
I'm Brianna, and I'm 13 too.
I'm Ashton, I'm 14.
I'm Calden, and I'm 9.
That's great. So it seems like you guys are all about the same age. You're in the same age group there. That's really nice. Do you So I'm Riley and I'm 10 years old, and I have 2 siblings, Lily and Hunter, and I really enjoy having siblings. It makes the chores a lot easier. And what do you like about homeschooling on the homestead?
That I can do school like wherever I want, like
Yeah,
in the puppy pen or something.
that's nice.
I like it that you can just do school like in the haymow or on a horse or basically wherever you want. You can also eat while you're doing school.
Oh yeah, that's good.
I like the fact that I like you can do school with the cats and the puppies and the chickens and sometimes the chicks if you have any, and just anywhere.
Oh yeah, that's really nice. I like to sometimes like go outside, maybe sit under a tree, read a book, go on the swing, read a book. I don't know, something like that. It's really fun.
I like, if it's during the winter and it's cold, I like to just go down in our basement and just be by the wood stove because it's like the warmest spot in our house.
Oh yeah. We have not a wood stove, but we have a fireplace, and that's really warm. And I like to just sit there, do some math, do my timing math, which is really fun.
I like that you can have like free time, like not do school like all day. And like don't like we have breaks.
Yeah, you don't have to do it like lesson, lesson, lesson. You can just do like lesson, eat a snack, lesson. I don't know, go outside, feed the sheep or your cow. That's really, yeah, that's a big, like, good thing about homeschooling now. Okay, so do you like having your cousins homeschooling with you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really fun because they don't go to school either. So they're always home and then we're always home. And you can basically go back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like it too.
I like having cousins, like the cousins home because like if you're bored or something, then you can go over and just hang out with them and then almost kind of slowly forget about school and then you have to go back to do it.
I like it because like you can go over there basically whenever you want. Plus, like then you can like do stuff over there, and then they can come over here and like play.
That's fun.
Our cousins homeschool with us too, so that's really cool. Except they don't live across the street, so we have to drive to see them, which is not that most ideal thing, but that's okay. What's your favorite animal on the farm?
Probably the rabbit, and I really like the horse. Yeah, I like it when we get pigs just because they're weird and funny. They just like burrow in the dirt and make puffs all over. And then chickens go lay on them. So I probably like the pigs and the horses and the rabbits the most. And Caddy, our dog.
I like the cats, and I like the dogs and the puppies when they're around, and the chicks.
I like the dogs, the sheep, and the cows, and the chicks, and the bunnies.
I like the horses and the pigs and the dogs and the bunnies.
Well, it sounds like you guys have a lot of animals over there, which is really cool. Now, I have one last question, and this one's very important. Do you think people should homeschool on the homestead?
Yeah, because you can basically do school like up in the tree if there's a nice seat up in the tree. And like whenever you don't need to have like a specific time too. I definitely think people should do it because you are way more free. You don't just have to sit in a building all day and stuff. And you don't need to like do your school super fast or super slow. You can do it like your own way, just get it done by the end of the day probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people should do it because when you're doing like the farm or whatever, you can just like try different things and you don't have to like be doing school in order to learn or anything. You can just like be doing chores and like learn something new about your hands.
I would say yes, because you are outside and you are able to get like fresh air while you're doing school. So I think that's a benefit.
I think people should do it because like you can actually move more in the day and like play and just not just go to school all day most of the day.
There's always so much to do on the homestead. We all know that with all the chores and stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, children, for helping us out with this little chat here we're having. We're trying to help people to decide if they should homeschool on the homestead. So I think you guys all agreed that it is something we should do. So is your mom still hanging out?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Darla, is there anything else, and kiddos, is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners about homeschooling on the homestead?
I think, let's see, which way to go. I think that it's so helpful to stay really positive. Because when you do homeschooling and when you do homesteading, it adds an extra layer, and we all have the opportunity to see each other's character come out in every way that there could possibly be. But at the same time, I think it's really character building because things come up and sibling relationships come up, and animals don't always live, but it's beautiful when they're born, and it's sad to die, and plants sometimes die, and school sometimes frustrating, and siblings are sometimes annoying, and mom is sometimes bossy. But like overall, I just feel like it's so important for us all to remember just to see the good in everything and stay positive and appreciate each other for who they all are.
Yeah, I thought that was funny as you were talking about the animals cooperating and all that. She was barking up a storm in the background. I'm like, oh gosh.
I hear her.
Oh,
No.
well, that's good. Maybe the recording didn't pick it up either. That's awesome. So where can people follow along on your journey?
Twin Folk Farms. The S goes after the farms.
All right, I'll be sure to link all of that, and we can purchase the meat right on your website too. So that's another plus. Do you kiddos help with all of the processing of the meat or packaging it?
Yeah.
So you're little entrepreneurs as well, learning the trade.
Yeah.
We have to have all of our meat processed at the USDA facility to have it cross state lines and to sell it at the farmers market. So so they don't see that side of it, but everything we consume here, we process here. And then the kids are little entrepreneurs. They're getting known at the farmers market for selling
coasters with names on and painted rocks with things.
I
Yeah.
love it. Well, maybe we'll have you guys on again talking about being entrepreneurs as homeschool homesteaders. So thank you so much for joining us today. This was such a great interview, and it was so nice meeting all of you and being able to talk about your life as homeschool and homesteaders. So thank you.
Thanks for having us. Great to meet you too as well.